The Great Story. The project began back in November 2014 between the Bridge for Heroes and Riarmato Productions. The aim was to work with 12 local organisations and schools to create 12 stop-motion animations to commemorate the First World War. After receiving words of encouragement from His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales at a reception in December 2014, the project began to take shape. Soon after, there were more and more local and some national organisations that were interested in joining the project and taking part. This was when we discovered the World War I programme that was being run by the fantastic Heritage Lottery Fund. After some considerate planning and discussions between our teams, we finally entered a project into the programme and were waiting for an outcome. It was April 2015 when we received the good news that our project was going to be funded. After a few formalities, we were given the green light to go ahead and start the project. As the Bridge for Heroes already ran a facility called the Military Museum, we decided that it would be the ideal location for the animating and historical research workshops. The museum is run by volunteers and has an extensive range of artifacts, hands-on experiences, and incredible, knowledgeable individuals that work there. The aim of the project was to work with people between the ages of 12 and 25. After contacting and being contacted by many organisations, we had to operate a first-come, first-served policy, and thus we emerged with 12 final participating groups. Final themes and stories had then to be decided, and with the assistance from our consultants, here are the stories. First one was about the outbreak of World War I. Second explored the story of the campaign in Gallipoli. The third was filmed in Ventspils and explored the Royal Navy's involvement in the Baltic Sea. The fourth was the story about the first Zeppelin raids in King's Lynn. Fifth was the Conker story, on how the conkers that the children collected helped in the prosecution of the war. The sixth, which was filmed in Berlin with the Berlin British School students, was about the Christmas truce. The seventh was called Faith in War. This was about faith and religion during the Great War. The eighth was Home Front, and how the children and women and other people left had to take up jobs and positions that they had not done before. 9 was about medicine and war, and explored how medicine advanced and how it affected the people that worked on the front. Number 10 was the animals on the front. Some people say that the horses were the driving force of the First World War. Number 11 was machines in war. This was exploring the story of how the Royal Flying Corps and the new metal beasts came to be. And the last one, or the 12th one, was the armistice. The production day was split into 3 thirds. The first third was the research phase. This is where the young people researched and collected information based on the theme or event. The next stage was to use the collected information to develop a fully working storyline that would educate the audience about that particular event in less than 3 minutes. And the last stage was to use the bespoke animating equipment supplied to capture around 500 photographs that would then form the animation film. All this work had to be completed in under 5 hours. This was quite a challenge, as each individual group was different. They each had various levels of existing knowledge and abilities. Perseverance and determination was a quality that everyone possessed. And with it, we were able to produce the series of these incredible stories about the First World War, or the Great War. With the organisations involved, it was crucial to display that charities, companies and other organisations had the capacity to work together and successfully deliver a universal educational tool that will record and preserve history for future generations.
I'm General the Lord Dallas, and I was Chief of the General Staff from 2006 to 2009, and I'm now President of Veterans Norfolk. I think what you'll have seen from this film is that although there are a large number of charities working in the service charity sector, it's really important that they work together. And that's why in Norfolk we formed Veterans Norfolk. It's an umbrella organisation of 28 member organisations working together to make sure we can join up the dots make sure there are no gaps in our care, and make sure there's not duplication or over-provision. And it's the same nationally with the Confederation of Service Charities, COBSEO. That works at national level, but you know, it's a funny thing. We don't live at national level, we all live somewhere on the ground. And that's why delivery of services is so important on the ground here in Norfolk. And we're joining the dots with Veterans Norfolk. And it makes a lot of sense, and it makes sure that we use our resources efficiently for the better care and protection of those who need our help.
A variety of locations of great importance were used in the project, including the architecturally outstanding King's Lynn Town Hall, that back in 1986 was a backdrop for the Sherlock Holmes film called The Man with the Twisted Lip.
Fine. I'm Councillor Barriers. I'm the Mayor of Kings Lynn and West Norfolk. West Norfolk was formed in 1974. It's a comparatively new authority. And this is our original town hall. We've got two town halls in Kings Lynn. We're lucky. This is the older one. The town hall was originally the building that was used by Merchants Guild. It was called the Holy and Undivided Trinity of St Margaret. In February 23rd, 1421, the original timber building that stood on this site was destroyed by fire. So the original part of the Guildhall that you see from the marketplace as you come into town is the original part that was built, so started in 1421. It was built in the original Norfolk red brick as it is today. It's been added to over the years. On the back of it there's been a new part called the Assembly Room, which we now use as a council chamber. Eventually, as the new authority, which I mentioned earlier, was formed in 1974, we had an increase in the number of councillors. Originally only 17 councillors, it wasn't a big problem. Today with over 60, representing the massive number of wards in West Norfolk, the town hall had to get bigger for council meetings. The public couldn't be got in, all sorts of problems. So this new part was built on the left-hand side, which makes the three parts of the existing town hall. There was originally a pub on this site called the Town Arms. It was a bit of a sacrilege to knock a pub down to build a town hall, but that's what happened. And that was all part of a Victorian design competition. So we've got the original stone hall. On the other side, replaced the timber building destroyed by fire. On the back of it, the assembly room that we use as a council chamber, and the original council chamber here on this side, the Victorian one, that was built on the site of the old Town Arms. Well, despite the Zeppelin attacks, we were extremely lucky, and Baker Lane and the other side of town caught some considerable damage, and there was loss of life. But the town hall itself escaped. Being a timber building, it wasn't humiliated by fire for a second time. If we don't record our history as a nation, it'll be lost forever. And from history, we learn moral lessons. We learn how to live in the 21st century from what happened in the 20th century. Everything that happens in history tends to repeat itself. We tend to see things happen over and over again in patterns. And from the way people react and behave to things that have happened in the past, they can give us moral and object lessons as to how to perform today in a modern society. Young people need to know what's gone before, so that it gives them some idea of how to deal with situations that they're confronted with, which they may not understand. It's a good enough reason. If children are involved in the making of history projects like this massive project, is that they will remember because they're involved with it. Telling young people something and actually involving them in doing it themselves and being hands-on is a whole different learning curve. As an ex-teacher, I can assure you children learn much more by doing than being told. It tends to just go over the top of their heads, and they're all the same. So this is a good learning curve. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just fantastic that you're going to so many different countries, so many different nationalities are going to be involved. And one of my key things about my year in office has been social cohesion, and seeing Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Germany, all involved in the production of this project. And all those people out there in those different countries that are doing their little bit to pull together this final animation, it's absolutely fantastic. It's an example of nations working together. It's an example of social cohesion. It's an example of what we need to be in a modern world.
Military personnel have always been present in Norfolk, including the legendary Royal Norfolk Regiment. The King's Men of Sandringham were part of the regiment and came from the surrounding villages in and around the Royal Sandringham estate.
Hello, My name's Jonathan Merrick. I'm the Bishop of Lynn, one of the suffragan bishops for this Diocese of Norwich, and my area of responsibility within the diocese is here in North and West Norfolk. I'm doing one of the voiceovers for these films, and I'm really glad to be involved because stories can help us understand things so much better. And furthermore, they can whet our appetite to understand more. My great-grandfather died in the First World War. He died at Gallipoli. And for a long time, I knew very little about him. Most of my life I've known very little about him, other than the fact that he died in the war. He's the only one of my immediate family to have died in either of the First World Wars. But this year I've discovered just a little bit more. He was one of the Royal Marine Commandos, a lieutenant, and died in a place they called Shrapnel Valley as one of the leading fighters. And that makes me want to know more about him. And it's our hope that these little films, which have been inspired by stories that school children from around the county have created themselves from the little they've learned and known, it's our hope that these stories may inspire your imaginations, help you to understand a little bit more of the reality of war and its awfulness. Because make no mistake, amidst the heroic actions, the courageous things, there's a great deal of horror as well. And war is never something that we should willingly or enthusiastically enter into, only ever as a last resort. But these stories may help you to understand a little bit more and to go and seek and find out a little bit more. It may be that you too have great-grandfathers, great-great-grandfathers that you don't know much about, and their story is out there waiting for you to discover it.
The animation workshops were incredibly diverse and completely different from each other, including having to work with young people in Latvian. The young people within the groups were incredibly capable, and although the process took 5 hours, it was a tough challenge for all. The production team established a connection with the Berlin British School and the deputy head, Andrew Walsh. After confirming details of the work the team was to undertake in Berlin, flights were booked and dates were set for the production work.
Welcome to the Berlin British School, where we've been filming today the 1914 Christmas truce using local German, British and New Zealand children. And we've just now finished that along with Latvia. This part of the film has been privately funded, and this also opens up doors where we're going to be working with the school locally here.
It was a unique experience for the young people to have British and German school children working together to recreate the story of peace and friendship in the midst of the war.
Hello, my name is Jack and I come from England.
I'm Anna from Germany.
And today we've been doing a stop-motion film about the Christmas truce of 1914 during World War I.
And as can be seen, in 2015 German and British can be friends as we are in a relationship.
The animation team also travelled to the Latvian town called Ventspils. The production workshop took place in the digital centre that is based in the main library building. The group of young people involved were organised by the Creative House staff and their teacher, Ingvilda. The production team worked with researchers from museums and libraries in Ventspils to explore the events of 1919 and how the Royal Navy was involved within the Baltic region. During this process, original photos and information was sourced and presented to the animation groups to use for the development of the storyline. Each animation had to have a narrator who would provide a voiceover. These narrations would be based on the stories that each group would develop and could only take place after each animation had been completed. There were in total 12 narrators, and the recording took place in many locations, such as the ITV studios in London as one of them. The research team used many different sources of information. One of the best sources that they had access to locally was the Kingston Library archives. These hold a vast amount of original news clippings, letters and other crucial information that was used for the historical research process.
Hi, my name's Kerry. I'm the manager of Kingston Library. Kingston Library was built in 1905 with funds from Andrew Carnegie. so it's a Carnegie library. Much of the library is still as it was when it was built. Not much has changed at all, apart from obviously we've modernised inside with computers and more modern books to what they had back in the day. During the First World War, we did have soldiers use the turret as an observation tower, looking out for the Zeppelins and then reporting to Whitehall. There are some engravings up there as well. They etched their names and their ranks into the stone wall. Lots of people use the library for local history research and family history research. We have lots of resources here. We have censors, we have parish registers, we have microfilm readers, as we have the Lynn News from the date they started to present day, all on microfilm. School logs and lots of books on the local history, some of them going back to the 1700s as well, all of which are free for the public to use. Like I said, we have modernised, we have moved with the times, and we have lots of computers in the library now which are free for people to use, along with Wi-Fi as well, which again is free for our members to use. We have free activities such as Scrabble and knitting clubs, and we also have non-English books, quite a few Russian and Lithuanian amongst them. The project being worked on here, The Great Story by Bridge for Heroes, has been fantastic, and they've been in to see us to use our archives along with some people from the Prince's Trust as well. Like I said, I think it's a brilliant project linking 3 countries together, the UK, Germany and Latvia. And we're hoping that there may be some potential in the future for the library here in King's Lynn to twin with the Ventspils Library in Latvia.
Although we had supplied the groups with bespoke animating equipment, you can still create your very own films even at home or in the classroom. For the animation guide and also a guide on how to research historical events, please visit the project website at thegreatstory.co.uk.
I hope you've enjoyed watching this film. I've certainly enjoyed taking part in it. But one thing I would say is thank you. Not just thank you for watching this film, but thank you for the support that you've given to our soldiers, sailors, airmen and marines over the years. We have to remember that our servicemen carry out operations in the name of the country, at the behest of the government, but in the name of the people. And they do it so much more willingly if they know the people are behind them. So thank you for the support you give to our armed forces.